Hello everyone. Welcome back to Anime Dreams, the channel where imagination reshapes the worlds of anime through exciting fanfiction scenarios and alternate timelines. Today, we're continuing an intense journey with What If Naruko Had Wolverine's Adamantium Skeleton? Part 3. In the previous parts, Naruko's unique abilities began to change the course of her destiny, creating ripple effects throughout the ninja world. Now, the story moves forward as new challenges, powerful enemies, and unexpected consequences emerge from her extraordinary transformation. Before we begin, a quick disclaimer. Disclaimer: the content on this channel is created for entertainment and discussion purposes only. I do not own any anime footage, images, music, or other copyrighted material used in my videos. All rights belong to their respective creators, studios, and copyright holders. This fanfiction is an original what-if interpretation inspired by existing characters and universes. Now, without further delay, sit back, relax, and enjoy the next chapter of this alternate Naruto story. What if Naruko had Wolverine's adamantium skeleton? Part 3. Let's begin. Kurenai stared at Naruko's file. It was thicker than she had expected. The blonde orphan had undergone several assessments conducted by Lady Tsunade and her apprentice, Shizune. Master Jiraiya had also left a number of notes and recommendations. As reluctant as she felt, Kurenai knew better than to assign a task without understanding a student's abilities. Carefully, she flipped through the pages before heading out to meet her future Genin team. The first section detailed Naruko's academic performance. Her grades were much stronger than most people realized. According to the notes, she had made a special agreement with Tsunade regarding her studies. Kurenai had to admit that if Naruko had mastered one final technique, she would have easily qualified for a place on the team. The next pages described her tracking abilities. Her visual awareness was impressive, though not quite equal to Hinata's. Her hearing was also remarkably sharp. What truly surprised Kurenai, however, was Naruko's sense of smell. No one could normally rival an Inuzuka in that area. Yet according to the report, Naruko's sense of smell was nearly equal to Kiba's. The difference was that she simply lacked the same amount of practical experience. The file suggested this ability might be connected to a newly awakened bloodline trait. Kurenai sat up straighter and continued reading. The information that followed was highly confidential. If the details ever became public knowledge, Naruko would attract far more attention than she needed. The report described enhanced vitality, quick recovery, and unusually sharp senses. It also mentioned the possibility of unique chakra manifestations connected to her heritage. Kurenai reread several lines, surprised by the discoveries recorded there. Closing the file carefully, she secured it away and hurried toward the academy. If Kakashi arrived before her, she would never hear the end of it. That morning, Naruko's arrival at the classroom surprised nearly everyone. Many of her classmates had assumed she would not return. Hinata, however, had quietly hoped to see her again. For years she had wanted to return a jacket Naruko had once lent her, and she finally felt brave enough to do so. The moment Naruko entered, Kiba noticed her. "Hey, Naruko," he called. "I thought only the students who passed were supposed to be here." Naruko smiled and pointed to the forehead protector resting proudly above her eyes. "Kiba, I had a special assignment from the Hokage," she replied. "I can't really talk about it, but that's why things happened the way they did." Several students immediately reacted with disbelief. From the back of the room, Shikamaru simply sighed. Before anyone could continue arguing, Naruko laughed. The sound surprised everyone. "What?" she asked with a grin. "You're all acting like it's impossible." Her cheerful attitude gradually eased the tension in the room. Even Sasuke, who rarely showed much emotion, seemed amused. A small chuckle escaped him. Then another. Soon he was genuinely laughing. The entire classroom fell silent in shock. No one could remember the last time they had seen Sasuke laugh so openly. Naruko couldn't help laughing too. When Iruka-sensei entered moments later, He found a classroom full of surprised students, a smiling Naruko sitting beside Hinata, and Sasuke still trying to stop laughing. It was certainly not the beginning of the day anyone had expected, but for the first time in a long while, the room felt lighter and friendlier. And that seemed like a very good start. Without further ado, Iruka began his announcements. First, I'd like to welcome you all to class. You may have noticed that I'm your only sensei today, and for those of you wondering why, the events surrounding that explanation have been classified an A-rank secret by the Hokage. Moving right along, we have 10 Genon squads here, and we'll start by placing those of you we can. Team 1. As Iruka called out their names, the Genon moved into the appropriate groups. The first 3 squads were announced in proper order by Iruka. There was, by long-standing custom, no Team 4, because nobody wanted to be part of any group marked by death. Team 5 and 6 were oddities. 5 was an all-boys squad, while 6 was all girls. Team 7 consists of Uchiha Sasuke and Sakura Haruno, with an open spot to be determined, led by Hatake Kakashi. Team 8 has a similar problem, with its set members being Aburame Shino and Hyuga Hinata, led by Yuhi Kurenai. Inuzuka Kiba and Uzumaki Naruko will be filling one or the other slot based on a Jonin Sensei determined test. Team 9 is still in circulation from last year, so next we have Team 10, Narashi Kamaru, Akimichi Kuji, and Yamanaka Ino. The lineup bothered Ino and all the fangirls except Sakura, but there was little they could do. As for Team 10's lineup, it seemed their parents had managed to convince the Hokage that another generation of the odd yet effective trio their clans made was a good plan. Once all teams were assigned, Iruka dismissed the class, with an admonishment to be back by the end of lunch to meet their respective Jonin. Naruko scratched the back of her head. I wonder what that's about? She turned to the girl who was her closest, if a little shy and awkward, friend. She'd noticed Hinata wasn't wearing the jacket she'd given her, and was curious about why, but felt this wasn't the place to discuss it. As the other fresh Shinon left, most of the girls glared at Sakura and Naruko, although for very different reasons. The 6 members of Teams 7 and 8, even though 2 of them were undetermined, were unsure of what to do. With their rosters up in the air like that, it was difficult to even think of bonding as a team. It was all to the good, then, when a few minutes later, Yuhi Kurenai arrived with one of her friends, Kiba's older sister Hana, and her canine partners. I'm Yuhi Kurenai. Teams 7 and 8 are to come outside with me, she announced. Hatake Kakashi will meet us in the yard by the gate. With that brief introduction, she turned and walked out. As they were walking outside, Naruko slipped up beside Hinata and whispered her question. Hinata Heim, she murmured, hoping in vain that neither of the two with the sharpest senses, Shino or Kiba, would catch what she said. You're not wearing the jacket I gave you. What's wrong? Is it too small now? I mean, it was 3 years ago, and it can't have been comfortable in some places. A quick glance, stolen as Naruko rubbed the bridge of her nose with her index finger, told Hinata that Naruko, her Naru-chan, was blushing. Hinata remembered exactly where the jacket hugged her most tightly, and she too turned red. They were outside by now, and she didn't have time to explain, so she just held the small bag she'd brought the jacket in and whispered her reply. I'll tell you later, Naru-chan. Kurenai-sensei is about to speak. Indeed, they had been joined by a tall Jonin with gravity-defying hair and his Hittite pulled down over his left eye. Kurenai stepped forward. The reason we are standing here is due to a minor dispute over which Shinon gets placed on Team 8, which is being set up as a tracking and reconnaissance team. As a result, the Hokage has told me to test the 2 potential Shinon before the final determination is made. She paused briefly. Hinata, Shino, the 2 of you are free to train or speak as you wait, but we will not be leaving until your teammate, whoever it is, gets back. Team 7 Sasuke and Sakura, the same applies for you. Turning to the last 2 Shinon, she continued. The test is as follows. Somewhere in Konoha is Tora, the cat belonging to the wife of the fire daimyo. The 2 of you are to track him down, capture him, and return him here by sunset. The first one back gets the spot on Team 8, and the other is placed with Team 7. She held up a scrap of silk. This is Tora's scent. Before you start, a few rules. No outside assistance. This means Akamaru stays here with Hana, Kiba. To be fair, however, no shadow clones for you, Uzumaki. The test applies only inside the walls of Konoha, and no interference with each other will be tolerated. She allowed each Shinon to smell the cloth. Begin. As she raced out into the village, leaping to the rooftops as she'd been taught, Naruko's mind raced as well. Kiba had been using his sense of smell for this sort of thing for a long time, but she hadn't. If she wanted to win, she would have to think carefully. A moment later, inspiration struck. Dashing toward the first place the cat would likely have left its scent, Naruko began trying to recall which hotel the fire daimyo's wife usually stayed in when visiting Konoha. Meanwhile, Kiba was certain he had the challenge in the bag. As the afternoon passed, Naruko steadily followed clue after clue. She stayed alert, watched her surroundings, and trusted her instincts. When a surprise obstacle appeared in her path, she reacted quickly, catching the small flask before it could spill and calmly continuing on her way. Soon she picked up Tora's trail once again. Hours later, Naruko finally found the runaway cat hiding in a patch of bushes in one of Konoha's parks. Moving carefully so she wouldn't frighten him, she crouched low and approached one slow step at a time. At almost the same moment, Kiba arrived from another direction. Tora noticed them both. One ninja approached calmly and patiently. The other rushed forward. Startled by the sudden movement, Tora sprang away from Kiba and leapt straight into Naruko's waiting arms. "There you are," Naruko said softly. She carefully cradled the frightened cat, making sure he felt secure. With Tora safely held against her, Naruko sprang up to a nearby tree branch and then onto a rooftop. Without wasting another moment, she raced back toward the academy, carrying the cat gently and securely all the way. Kiba was not happy and began to chase Naruko across the rooftops, wondering how the blonde could keep running like that. He had been giving it his all day and was barely breathing hard, by the kami. Meanwhile, Kiba was definitely slowing down. He realized he could either keep shouting threats at the other Jinan or stay quiet and focus on running, but either way, he could not catch up. He had lost, and all he could do was accept it. He snarled, partly at Naruko but mostly at himself. His former classmate had earned this, after all. And now that Kiba thought about it, Hinata would probably prefer Naruko on her team anyway. Well, maybe she would thank him for making the baka work for it, and if she ever changed her mind, he would still be her friend. There was always hope, right? He did not realize he had spoken aloud until he heard the chuckle of the Chunin behind him. "Indeed, there is always hope, Inuzuka-san," the man said as he stroked his goatee-style beard. Combined with his bald head and Chunin vest, he looked almost villainous, but in a cool sort of way. Hope is the one thing that cannot be taken from you. It can only be cast aside, and even then, there are those who will carry it for you until you need it again. I am Sadato Rishinchi, Inuzuka-san, also called Gentleman Tiger, and I bid you good day. The deep voice and formal manner of speech distracted Kiba for only a moment, and then the man was gone from right before his eyes. Hyuga Neji had arrived while Naruko and Kiba were undertaking their test. Upon hearing what was happening, he had reported everything to Hyashi and the Hyuga elders. They had decided to see the outcome for themselves and sent an elder, accompanied by 2 branch house bodyguards, along with Hyashi and Neji, to determine whether Hinata's teammate was worthy. It did not help that the elder they sent had been a close friend of the lady Nuzuka Kujo, Kiba's father, who had died during the Kyuubi's attack, though not by the Kyuubi itself, a detail the Inuzuka family rarely discussed. As Naruko came up the road at a slow jog, gently stroking Tora's fur to reassure the now comfortable feline, she was greeted by the sight of 6 Hyuga clan members. Kurenai-sensei, Kakashi-sensei, and Shino were there as well, along with Sasuke, who was leaning against a tree, and Sakura, who was staring dreamily at him. For such a smart girl, Naruko thought, she can do some pretty silly things sometimes. Then she turned her gaze toward Hinata. Hinata clasped her hands together the moment she saw Naruko, and a bright smile spread across her face. Although the sun was setting, it seemed to shine once more in Naruko's eyes. Kurenai watched as Naruko jogged in, petting the cat that existed to make Shinnon life a living challenge, and shuddered, a motion that was not missed by Hinata, who had never heard tales of the cat. Neji didn't speak about things with her very often. Or at all. As the red-eyed Kunoichi nodded to Naruko, Anko appeared behind her. She ran fair, and passed the obstacles without help. She's pretty good. Shinchi says the other Gaki needs work, but she'd probably be better off as a fighter with tracking as a secondary specialty. Grinning, the woman in the trench coat, mesh, and miniskirt disappeared in a swirl of leaves. Turning to Naruko, Kurenai swallowed her pride and extended her hand. Well done, Uzumaki, and welcome to Team 8. Before Naruko could say anything, Hinata's temper finally blew. Striding past her family, which surprised the Hyuga no end as she wasn't hesitating in the slightest, nor did she seem to care that others were not only present, but watching, she stopped in front of her new sensei. Hyashi felt the urge for some popcorn. Placing herself before Kurenai, she launched into an angry rant. Kurenai-sensei, she hissed, enough venom in her words to give the Jonin real pause, even as Kiba finally jogged up to the academy gates. I don't think you really mean that. I think you feel forced and badly done by to have her here, when the truth is you should be fighting to keep her. I don't know why you wanted Kiba on the team, but I do know why Naruko should be here. She has drive, determination like no one else, and you should be ashamed of yourself for treating her like the rest of the villagers, the narrow minds that can't stop blaming her for something that I'm sure she didn't choose. She helps others every chance she gets, did you know that? She stands up for anyone who needs it, and even when she has to compete with someone, she tries to help them afterward. Sasuke nodded at that with a grunt as he recalled their academy rivalry. She sees the bright side of everything, she works hard, and when people laugh with her, her smile could light the room. She is Uzumaki Naruko, a part of this team now, and if you insist on calling her Uzumaki, then I insist you call me Hyuga. It's about as polite. Everyone was staring at Hinata during this rant, and as it went on, Naruko looked around for confirmation. With each point, someone else nodded, although apparently only Hinata had seen the true smile she apparently used. Sasuke had actually given a wry grin as she mentioned the part about making others laugh, at the same time Sakura blushed. As each person nodded, Naruko's smile got wider. It was a true smile, as Hinata would have put it, not a mask to hide pain or keep others away, but a beacon of good feelings to be shared. As she realized this, Hinata stopped talking and looked around, suddenly aware of exactly who she'd been speaking in front of. The shocked adults of the Hyuga, the bitter and glowering face of Neji, the placid exterior of Shino, and the general look on everyone's face all seemed to suggest they would have found a fluffy little rabbit giving a stern lecture easier to believe. She brought up the bag that had Naruko's old jacket in it, even as Naruko murmured in a low tone, "Tell it, Hinata Heim," and tried to hide her face behind it as she went bright red and struggled not to faint. Kurenai felt like the world was upside down. She'd just been verbally scolded, and deservedly so, by a Genin she'd had charge of for less than 6 hours. She bowed at the waist toward the two Genin and spoke clearly. "I'm very sorry, Naruko. I was too attached to what I'd heard from others and jumped to an unfounded conclusion." When she straightened up, she walked over to Kakashi and handed him a stack of coins. "Here's your 20 Ryo, Kakashi. If you buy another Icha book with it, I'll have my new team hunt you down and burn your mask." As the two teams separated, Shino leaned toward Naruko. "Why do you think he wears that mask?" he asked his new teammate in a level voice. Naruko thought for a moment before answering, still gazing at Hinata. "As much as he reads Uro-sennin's books, it's probably to hide his nosebleeds." Straightening as Hinata spoke nervously to her father, she added, "Sorry, Shino, but can you excuse me? I just remembered Hinata-chan said she needed to talk to me." With that, she made her way closer to the girl with the midnight hair. "I told you, daughter," Hyashi was saying as Naruko approached, "it was all well and good to play at it for the last few years, but if the elders are to make you a good match. For a change, he was interrupted by his child. I am sorry, father, but time has gotten away from us. I was going to explain things, but events came up to postpone the telling. If you can give me a few minutes. A few minutes for what, Hinata Heim? Naruko asked, startling an eep from her. This was embarrassing enough in front of her whole clan without actually having them hear what she said. Taking Naruko's hand, Hinata led her away from everyone, though she took great care to remain in full view of them all. As she did, Naruko found herself distracted by how soft Hinata's hands were before realizing she was speaking. Sorry, Naruko muttered. What was that you said? Do you remember the jacket you gave me, Naruko? Naruko snorted. Of course she remembered it. You've only worn it every day since, Hinata, she replied. Until today, of course. Is there something wrong? It's definitely too small now. If you want, I can get you another one. Hinata very nearly passed out from excitement, but managed not to by the barest margin. Taking a deep breath, she continued. Hi, Naruko-chan, it is too small, but please let me finish, okay? At Naruko's nod, she went on. You know the spirals on the shoulder and back of your jacket? Again, Naruko nodded. Those are clan symbols. Your clan symbols. And the only people allowed to wear them are active duty chunin and higher ranked shinobi, to honor a treaty as old as Konoha itself, and the members of that clan. Naruko nodded again. She had a vague memory of Tsunade saying something along those lines, and her curiosity was piqued as Hinata began going red again. Studying it, she saw that it started at Hinata's jaw and spread upward and downward from there. Well, if you give someone your clan symbols like that, you're asking them to join your clan. If you give them to an unmarried girl or woman, it can be taken as a marriage proposal. Naruko noticed that the cute stutter Hinata used to have when she was nervous was back, meaning she had to be really nervous. Naruko went pale and looked over at Yashi. Why you mean? Hi. IPP proposed? Hi. Hinata was pushing her index fingers together now. And your dad? Hi. Naruko's eyes rolled back in her head in a moment she would never live down, and she fainted. Dear YouTube family. That's all for now. If you enjoyed this video, please like, share, and subscribe to the channel for more content. Thank you for your support. Regards, Anime Dreams.